Welcome to the south side city of Danville, where refurbished tobacco warehouses bear witness to the problems of the street. Project Imagine is an entire department here tasked with aiding those under 21 using an approach called restorative justice.
Project Imagine, we work with high-risk and gang-related youth, and the object of Project Imagine, hence the name, means that the city had a motto of reimagine that, how the city could look. And so my question was, how do you reimagine something that you never had an image of? And the population that we work with didn't really have an image of what success looked like as far as mainstream, what we may call success. So we named it after that because it is our project to give them an image of a greater life.
Robert David says it's an approach aimed at disrupting what advocates call the school-to-prison pipeline, where long school suspensions or expulsions end up increasing the likelihood that youth will land in prison.
An example, there was a young lady a couple of years ago who was suspended from school, and one of the school officials said that she had no redeemable qualities. She was expelled. Project Imagine came into play. We assisted her in getting her to a GED program, which she completed within 2 months.
But what is restorative justice exactly? How did it develop? What does it aim to do?
When people talk about restorative justice, generally we're talking about the idea of strengthening relationships, working on collaborative problem solving, and when it comes to harm, giving a voice to the person harmed, but also the person that's causing the harm. And when everyone's invested in this process, we get results, whether that's decreased suspensions in schools or lessening of crime in the criminal justice field.
Restorative justice began in the United States in the 1970s by Mennonites who were volunteering in a juvenile court. Restorative justice is a conflict resolution process that seeks to address conflict and hold the offender accountable in a more reasonable way than is done in the court system.
Richmond attorney Sylvia Clute introduced a type of restorative justice program called Unitive Justice to Richmond's Armstrong High School in 2011. She wrote a book on the topic.
U.S. public policy towards our youth took a drastic turn in a very retributive direction. We adopted zero-tolerance school discipline.
When the program started at Armstrong, it had 583 disciplinary incidents in a single year. After 2 years, that number went down to 150. Clute says political rhetoric got away from true justice.
3 strikes you're out, abolish parole, truth in sentencing, all of those were just slogans to play on our fear of crime to get the politicians elected. They were not good public policy.
You may have a student that comes in and they started a fight. Well, the educator, if they're just focusing on the fight that the student caused and continuing on with their curriculum, well, nothing's been resolved in this instance. However, if they take a step back and go talk to that student and say, hey, what's going on? They may find out the student didn't eat breakfast, maybe didn't eat dinner the night before.
In Virginia, going from school to court is a frequent trip, leading to broad practices described as exclusionary.
Example of being excluded and not being repaired is suspending a young man and never letting them come back for something that could have been dealt with maybe just with 3 days. You understand?
So the Center for Public Integrity in 2015 reported that Virginia was a leading state in referring kids from the classroom to the courtroom. That same data was found to be true in 2021.
Restorative justice looks at collaborating to break that cycle.
It's voluntary. That means that if 2 parties that need to work out a conflict both have to agree to the process, or it will not work. It cannot be mandated.
Let's just say there's 2 individuals, they're playing basketball, and one of the youth smacked the other youth. Now, in our world, that could cause a whole thing out in the community. How do we repair that? How do we operate in restorative practices? What do? We pull those 2 individuals together. We have this individual take responsibility. Let's talk about why you really slapped him. Did it even have anything to do with him?
A sometime component of this approach, which is used in Danville, for instance, is employing workers called credible messengers.
They use those experiences to connect with those individuals out in the community. That's another thing why we're so successful, is understanding the needs and the authenticity of how we operate and how we provide services.
And they're able to talk to the gangsters on the streets and say, hey, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. safe passage route for students.
Chloe Edwards knows the value of shared experiences. Her own father spent time in prison for drug addiction.
And being put in jail for 3 years, spending time away from his kids, like myself, I'm one of 3, I'm a triplet, it didn't cause rehabilitation. What it created was a cycle of drug use and then incarceration.
The court system in Virginia is evolving, however.
So our juvenile courts have a lot of diversion programs. So these are kids get into trouble, they come into the juvenile courts, and then there's, they're processed. And there are diversion programs that can be selected for them to go to. And a good many courts in the state have restorative justice as one of those diversion programs.
In Danville, as a restorative effort to divert youth from gangs, they are actually turning to esports.
This generation is about gaming, and there is employment in gaming. They give scholarships for gaming. Our local college here has an esports team. So in Project Imagine, we understand that we don't push youth away from their desires. We try to find a way to incorporate it that is productive. So what we did here is we started an esports gaming team.
And there's money to be made in esports. The kids David helps are actually using that as a source of income, a creative solution aimed at beating the streets.
And we use evidence-based theoretical principles and methods in order to improve self-efficacy and things like that. So what we're talking about is entrepreneurship, but maybe not like entrepreneurship that a 40-year-old might think of, but we're talking about things like braiding hair or art or music or audio-visual.
From Richmond to Danville, an idea that started with Mennonite court volunteers is sweeping departments and agencies all over the state.
I think restorative justice can be looked at a broader level when we talk about the concept of truth-telling and reconciliation, repairing the harm caused.
To me, restorative justice is responsibility and repair in equitable spaces.
For VPM News, I'm Billy Shields.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to VPM's YouTube channel. And head to vpm.org for more in-depth coverage.